We're live. So we're live here on the JJ Show. It's number 2. Let's wait for all you lovely people to come online. Sorry about that. I've just realised that in order to have live chat, you have to tell the audience whether it's suitable for children or not. And clearly I didn't. So we'll just wait and see if everybody's... Oh, yeah, I can see you all lining up. Come along in and sit down. I think I better clean the old glasses, don't you? So at least I can see what I'm reading. I think I look slightly better tonight. Bit of colour in the cheeks, bit of makeup on. Honestly, this TV lark, it's a bit tough. Oh, somebody's gone then. Somebody's gone. Somebody's coming back. I'm live. Right, let's wait for everybody to come along and sit down. I think we have. If you could just put in the chat box on the right-hand side who you are, where you are from, please. That would be great. And we can see who we've got online tonight. I will say something. Shall I say something? Bienvenue, everyone. Oh, this is cool. Oh. Bienvenue, everyone. Is everyone here? I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to get people back on. Back on. Oh, somebody's here. Put a little bit of a hello in the box. Let me know if you're with us, joining us, watching with us. There were 6 or 7 people here before. Everybody's gone. Everybody disappeared. Chat box is open, everybody, on the right-hand side. Please feel free to tell me who you are and where you're from before we start reading the wonderful Peter Mayle and the Marseille Caper. Oh, it's Heather Bradshaw. I love that name. Oh, Heather Bradshaw. Makes you sound terribly nice. Makes you sound like you go to the WI, have scones and tea. Right. So this is lots of people I know who've read books about France and read Peter Mayle and have never read this book. It's, as you can see, it's really old. The pages are slightly yellow on the side, and it's actually in euros. I don't know when I bought it. It was £6.99. It says ebook available, so £6.99 in the beginning when it was published, and I bought it in the Maison de la Presse, and it was €11.90. So I don't know when that was. I wonder if I bought it once when I was in Paris, because this one was actually he's written actually a lot of books, and some of them I haven't read. Well, one in particular which I'd really like to read, I haven't read. So I've read A Year in Provence. I've read Toujours Provence. I've read Hotel Pastis. I think I've read A Dog's Life, Chasing Cézanne, A Good Year. I've watched the film, obviously, but not read the book. And there's one I'd really like to read written with someone else called Gérard Ozé, and it's Confessions of a French Baker, which I think sounds quite good. Peter Mayle is the author of 11 previous books, 5 of them novels. He has received the Légion d'honneur from the French government for his cultural contributions and has been living in Provence with his wife Jenny for 20 years. So that tells you a little bit about him. Now, this one was first published in... Oh, not as old as that, actually. 2012. Well, that's funny. I wonder where I was in 2012, because I bought it in euros 13. Maybe I bought it in Chamonix. Yes, I bought it in Chamonix at the Maison de la Presse. So I'm just going to crack on. Just make sure I haven't got any messages from people who can't find us or can't get on. Da di da 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 la da 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 da. Oh, we better. Bear with me a second. I'm on it. Right. Hello, everybody. So shall we start? Because I just think this is quite fun. We'll read a chapter and then let me know what you think. Oh, Leanne's here. Hi, darling. She's found me. Creme franglaise. So this is one that you might enjoy. And Sam, this is the blurb on the back. Sam Levitt, former corporate lawyer, wine connoisseur, and expert on cultivated crime, is back in Marseille for both work and pleasure. The lure of excitement and the pleasures of the region proving too tempting to resist. But surrounded by gangsters and cutthroat developers, Sam finds himself far closer to danger than he had planned. So I thought this would be quite fun. Shock has a chilling effect, particularly when it takes the form of an unexpected meeting with a man from whom you have recently stolen $3 million worth of wine. Sam Levitt shivered and pulled his terry cloth robe closer around his body, still damp from an early morning dip in the Chateau Marmont pool. Here, the man on the other side of the table, smiling, tanned, immaculate, slid a cup of coffee across to Sam. Drink this, it'll warm you up. Then we can talk. He leaned back and watched as that first infinitely welcome cup went down, then another, while Sam tried to gather his wits. Sam was sitting with Francis Sisu Reboul. The last time they had met had been in Marseille over a glass of champagne at Le Faro. Reboul's cliff-top palace with a billionaire's view of the Mediterranean. Sam, on an assignment from an international insurance company, was hunting for several hundred bottles of vintage Bordeaux that had been stolen from the Hollywood home of Danny Roth, an entertainment lawyer with a weakness for fine wines. After a search that had taken him from LA to Paris to Bordeaux to Marseille, Sam had discovered the stolen bottles in Reboul's vast cellar. And being a man who preferred direct action to long and tiresome negotiations with the authorities, had just stolen them back. Then he had thought was that a nice, neat job with no complaints, likely from the victim. But here was the victim himself in the garden of the Chateau Marmont in Los Angeles, behaving for all the world like an acquaintance who was trying to be a friend. Perhaps I should have given you some warning, said Reboul with a shrug. But I only flew into Los Angeles last night. There's some business I need to attend there. And I thought I would take the opportunity to come and say bonjour. He took a card. Don't be annoying. Oh, he's so annoying. Sorry, apologies. We've got someone gate crashing the party here. He took a card from his top pocket and pushed it across the table. You see, here's the little souvenir you gave me during our last meeting. Sam glanced down at the familiar sight of his own business card. Well, Mr. Reboul. Please, Reboul waved a dismissive hand. You must call me Francis, and I will call you Sam. More cosy, not? He smiled and nodded, as though the idea of coziness was amusing. I don't want to waste your time, so let me get right to the point. He drank the last of his coffee and pushed his cup and saucer to one side with a manicured index finger. In fact, the business that brings me to California is you. Reboul paused for a moment and gave Sam a conspiratorial wink before continuing. I have a situation in Marseille that requires someone, ideally, as you will see, an American with particular and rather unusual gifts. Darling, could you shut the door, please?
Oh, sorry. I do apologize.
No.
About the inconvenience.
Yes. Convenience with a C. Very annoying. Hi, JJ, you made it. Well done. Wink, wink. Exactly. Raboul paused for a moment and gave Sam a conspiratorial wink before continuing. I have a situation in Marseille that requires someone, ideally, as you will see, an American with particular and rather unusual gifts. And judging from our previous encounter, it seems to me that you would be just the man for the job. What would you say to a few weeks in Marseille? It's at its best this time of year before the full heat of the summer. I would make your stay extremely comfortable and, of course, very attractive financially. Suspicion fought with curiosity, and curiosity won. Let me guess, Sam returned Raboul's wink. Would I be right in saying that what you have in mind is not altogether legal? Raboul frowned and shook his head, as though Sam had suggested something faintly improper. Legality is so difficult, isn't it? If it were easier to define, most of the lawyers in the world would be out of business.
Sorry.
You're not funny. You're not funny.
Sorry.
Sorry, everybody. Apologies, everybody. We've got another gate crasher. Well, it's actually the same gate crasher who's been back twice now. They can't see you. Thank goodness. Oh, God, that's so annoying. But my dear Sam, allow me to put your conscience at rest. I'm not proposing anything more illegal than a little harmless deception. And after your performance as a book publisher the last time we met, this would be child's play for a man of your talents. A mere soup de fève, as we say in Marseille. Raboul's attention suddenly shifted from Sam to the woman making her way through the garden towards their table. How delightful, he said, smoothing his hair and standing up. We have a visitor. Sam turned to see Elena Morales dressed in what she called her client uniform, a black suit and black high heels, and carrying a slim black briefcase. The businesslike effect enlivened by a discreet flurry of black lace visible beneath the opening of her jacket. She stood over Sam, tapping her watch and looking far from pleased. Is this your idea of casual Friday, or have you forgotten about the meeting? Ah, said Sam. Right, the meeting. Give me 5 minutes to change, okay? He was aware of Raboul hovering expectantly behind him. Elena, this is Mr. Raboul. Elena smiled and offered her hand. From Marseille, he added. Raboul took Elena's hand as though it were a fragile object of immense value, and then with a practised swoop, bent and kissed it. Enchantée, mademoiselle, enchantée. He gave the hand a second kiss. Sam resisted the urge to tell Raboul not to talk with his mouth full. If you two will excuse me, he said, I'll be back as soon as I've slipped into my bulletproof vest. What a brilliant line that is. Sorry. I love that. That's brilliant. Raboul pulled out a chair for Elena. How pleasant it is to meet you. Forgive me for making Sam late, but I must have surprised him. The last time we met was in Marseille, and I don't think he expected to see me again. I'm sure he didn't. I know all about what happened in Marseille. He told me, said Elena. Actually, I hired him. I'm with Knox, the insurance company. So you're business colleagues? Now and then. But we're also friends, you know. Napo, go out and don't make a noise. Raboul's eyes twinkled. Lucky man. Perhaps you could help persuade him to take on this little job for me. Even better, perhaps you would come with him. He patted her hand. That would give me great pleasure. Elena was aware that Raboul was out to charm her. She was aware, too, that she was rather enjoying it. Where is this little job? Marseille. It's a fascinating city. Let me tell you all about it. When Sam returned to the table, his bathrobe was exchanged for a suit and tie. He found Raboul and Elena in an animated conversation. It was his turn to stand over Elena, tapping his watch and looking smug. Elena looked him up and down and grinned. Very smart. Pity you forgot the socks. But that doesn't matter. We'd better go. Where did you leave the car? Turning to Raboul, she said, We'll see you back here this evening then in the restaurant, 7:30? Raboul inclined his head. I shall count the moments. Sam waited until they had joined the traffic on Sunset to head over to Wilshire before he spoke. So what's happening this evening? Francis is taking us to dinner so he can tell us all about the job. Us? Yes, he invited me to Marseille and I'm tempted. More than that, I'd really like to go. I have a load of vacation time due and I've never been to the south of France, and Marseille is at its best this time of year. Sam pulled over to pass the bright pink Hummer dawdling along in front of him. He doesn't waste any time, does he? Oh, he's cute and such a gentleman. You know something? I've never had my hand kissed before. It's against US health and hygiene regulations. Sam shook his head. He knew from past experience that Elena was blessed with a whim of iron. Once she'd made a decision, it was pointless trying to change her mind. And besides, he had to admit that having her with him would make the job a great deal more fun, if he decided to take it. Meanwhile, they had the meeting to get through, and that certainly wasn't going to be fun. They were seeing Danny Roth to tie up the loose ends remaining from the recovery of his stolen wine and its shipment back to the States. There was also the matter of Sam's substantial finder's fee. Even though this was to be shared between Roth and Knox Insurance, Sam anticipated trouble. Reluctance to pay at best, outrage and refusal more likely. He pulled up outside the tinted glass cube that was the headquarters of Roth and Partners, those being his mother and his accountant, and cut the engine. Are you ready for this? Don't expect too much hand kissing here. They were met in reception area by Roth's executive secretary, the tall, regal and incompetent Cecilia Volpe, who retained her job thanks to her influential father, Myron, one of the handful of powerful anonymous men who ran Hollywood behind closed doors. Celia swayed toward them on 4-inch heels, brushing her mane of tawny hair from her forehead, then better to run her eye over Elena's outfit. Love the shoes, she murmured, Louboutin, and then remembering her duties. Mr. Roth has a very busy schedule today. Will you be long? Sam shook his head and smiled. Just as long as it takes to write a check. Cecilia considered Sam's reply for a moment before deciding it was not to be taken seriously. She returned her smile, revealing several $1,000s worth of exquisitely capped teeth. If you'd like to follow me. She turned and swayed off down the corridor, her skirt clinging to a pair of buttocks, toned to perfection, that seemed to have a life of their own. Oh, I wish I'd written that one. Twitching with every step, and Sam was mesmerized. Elena's elbow dug into his ribs. Under no circumstances are you to make any comment. Keep your mind on your work. Cecilia left them at the doorway of Roth's office. He was sitting with his back to them, the dome of his hairless head gleaming in the sunlight that flooded the room. He swiveled around, taking the phone from his ear, and looked at them through narrowed, unfriendly eyes. Will this take long? I hope not, Mr. Roth. Elena sat down and took some papers from her briefcase. I know you have a very busy schedule, but there are 1 or 2 matters we need to clear up. Roth jerked his head towards Sam. What's he doing here? Me? Said Sam. Oh, I've just come to pick up my check. Roth assumed a shocked expression. Check? Check? Sure you don't want a goddamn medal as well? Jesus. Elena signed the finder's fee, Mr. Roth. It's here in the insurance contract. And there they stayed for almost 2 hours, while Roth picked his way through the contract line by line, disputing all but the most harmless clauses, his behaviour just this side of apoplectic. When they were finally through, Cecilia was summoned to escort them to the elevator. Wow, she said. He normally doesn't spend that much time with anyone. He must really like you guys. I am not doing the American accent this way. All the way through the book, I can't do it. Elena turned up the air conditioning in the car and settled back in her seat. If I needed another excuse to get out of town, that was it. The man's a monster. I'll tell you something. Marseille's looking better and better. Well, let's see what Raboul has to say. Don't even think of turning him down. I'll twist one arm and he can twist the other. She leaned across and kissed Sam's ear. Resistance will be useless. Episode 2, Chapter 2. Elena and Sam were late as they hurried along the corridor toward the elevator that would take them down to the Chateau Marmont restaurant and dinner with Francis Raboul. They had been delayed by Elena's competitive urge, a desire to wear something that, in her words, would show Raboul that French women weren't the only babes in the world. After several false starts and considerable discussion, she had chosen a dress that was very much the style of the moment: black, tight, and short. As they waited for the elevator to arrive, Sam put his arm around her waist, then allowed his hand to slide gently down to the upper slopes of the finely proportioned Morales derriere. His hand stopped, moved farther down, and stopped again. "Elena," he said, "are you wearing anything under that dress?" "Not a lot," she said, "a couple of drops of Chanel." She looked up at him and smiled her most innocent smile. "It's that kind of dress, you know. There's only room for me." Sam was saved from further comment as the elevator doors opened to reveal a man wearing a blazer and red brick trousers with matching brick red face. He was holding a half-empty martini glass, which he raised to them. "Going to party out there in the garden," he said. "I thought I'd get in some practice first." As the elevator came to a stop, he drained his glass and put it in his blazer pocket, straightened his shoulders, and set off, weaving slightly. Raboul was ready at their table, champagne bucket at his elbow, going through a sheaf of papers. At the sight of Elena, he leaped to his feet and took her hand, confining himself this time to a single kiss, and murmured, "Ravissante, ravissante." Elena inclined her head prettily, and Sam rolled his eyes. Their waiter poured champagne. Raboul was a man for whom the word dapper might have been invented. Tonight he was resplendent in a black silk suit, the tiny scarlet ribbon of the Légion d'honneur a nick of colour on his lapel, and a shirt of the palest blue. A dazzling white handkerchief, also silk, was tucked into the cuff of his jacket. Like many fortunate Mediterranean men, his skin welcomed the sun, and his smooth, light mahogany complexion provided a most flattering contrast with his perfectly white, perfectly trimmed hair. Even his eyebrows, Elena noticed, had received the skilled attentions of a master barber. Beneath those eyebrows, his brown eyes twinkled with good humour. He was living testimony to the joys of being rich. "A toast," he said, lifting his glass, "to the success of our little venture." Sam paused, his glass halfway to his mouth. "I don't want to spoil the fun," he said, "but I like to know a lot more about my little ventures before I get too excited." "And so you shall, my dear Sam, and so you shall." Raboul passed the wine list across to Sam. "But first, could I ask you to choose some wine for us? I seem to remember that you have an eye for a good vintage." This was accompanied by a raised eyebrow and a conspiratorial nod of the head, as though Raboul were sharing a secret. It was the first time he had referred, albeit not too directly, to Sam's theft of several hundred bottles of the wines he had taken such trouble to acquire. And from his air of general benevolence and the smile on his face, he appeared to find the incident as amusing. Was that really how he felt? Perhaps now was not the moment, thought Sam, to pursue the subject. Without looking at the wine list, he pushed it to one side. "I hope you don't mind," he said, "but I've already arranged the wine. I have a little cellar here. Unfortunately, nothing like yours, and I chose one or two bottles you might find interesting. There's a Châteauneuf du Pape, but a white Châteauneuf du Pape, and one of our local wines you may not have tried yet, the Beckstoffer Cabernet from Napa. How do they sound?" Raboul looked up from the menu. "Formidable. And now, my dear Elena, what should I eat? Women always know best. I'm in your hands." Elena patted his arm. "Leave it to me." She studied the menu for a few moments. "Soup au pistou? Maybe not. I guess you get plenty of that at home. The seafood's very good here, so you could start with crab cakes and a puree of avocado." Raboul held up his hand. "Say no more. I have a passion for crab cakes, and I would kill for crab cakes." Well, let's hope that won't be necessary." Elena looked up from the menu. "What are we today? Tuesday? Oh, great. The special today is braised rabbit and pappardelle with wild mushrooms. Oh, it's delicious, trust me." "You amaze me," said Raboul. "I didn't know you Americans ate rabbits." "Well, this one does." The orders were placed, the bottles were uncorked, and the champagne was given due attention. And with a shrug of apology to Elena for bringing business to the table, Raboul started to outline the reason for his visit. Marseille is an extraordinary city, he began. It was established more than 2,600 years ago, before Paris was even called Paris. And it's big. The Marseille of today covers twice as much land as Paris. But as you would imagine, the land along the coast, the land, as we say, with its feet in the Mediterranean, has almost all been developed. Raboul paused to take a sip of champagne, except for one charming little bay, the Anse de Pêcheurs, to the east of the old port. I won't bore you with the history of why it was never developed, except to say that for 120 years it has been fought over and disputed by generations of city politicians and construction companies. There have been bribes, counter-bribes, court cases, and so they say at least one killing. But 2 years ago, at last, a decision was made to develop the Anse de Pêcheurs. It's a project very close to my heart, and I have already spent a great deal of time and money on it. But the arrival of the crab cakes. Are you all still there? Is anybody still there? Is this boring the pants off you all? Can somebody please tell me? Because I will gladly stop. Try the white Chateau Neuf, the compliment Sam compliment Sam on his choice. Tell me, asked Sam, what happened to help all these guys finally make up their minds after 120 years? Raboul took a little longer and a more considered sip of the Chateau Neuf, holding it in his mouth and nodding his approval before replying. Well, back in 2008, Marseille was voted European Capital of Culture for 2013, with the aim to use the official language of accelerating development. I think that was the final push. At any rate, bids and ideas for developing the Anse were invited, and eventually a shortlist was drawn up of 3 proposals. One of them, the best, obviously, in my opinion, is mine. Also, my 2 competitors suffer from a disadvantage. They are foreigners, a group from Paris and an English syndicate. Neither of them has shown any imagination. Both want to build big hotels with all the modern trimmings, rooftop pools, spas, luxury shopping malls, the same old tired ideas. Fine for tourists, maybe, but not so good for the people who live in Marseille. And the buildings will undoubtedly be ugly concrete glass boxes. He wiped the last of the avocado puree from his plate with a piece of bread and dabbed at his mouth with a napkin. We have a few of those here in LA, said Elena. So what's your idea? Ah, said Raboul, something for the Marseillaise. Apartments, but low, nothing higher than 3 floors, set in a terrace garden leading down to the sea, then a small marina, not for yachts, but for the kind of little boats that ordinary people who live by the sea might want to have. I can show you the scale model of the project when we get to Marseille. He looked from Sam to Elena, his eyebrows raised. Et voila! What do you think? Sounds a lot better than concrete boxes, Sam grinned, but I have a feeling there might be more to this than architecture. He leaned back as the waiter arrived with their main course. Raboul sighed. Just so, there is a problem. He looked down at the plate that had been placed in front of him and lowered his head for a closer inspection, inhaling deeply. But before I explain, let us deal with this excellent rabbit. The excellent rabbit was duly dealt with, the Beckstoffer Cabernet tasted, admired, and tasted again, and the conversation drifted pleasantly from winemaking to the charms of Cassis, Marseille's neighbourhood vineyard, and onto the latest bee in Elena's bonnet. She had recently completed a wine course and had been subjected by the rather patronising instructor to the overblown vocabulary so beloved by wine experts. I'm sure the guy knew his stuff, she said, and I can just put up with it, pencil shavings and truffle oaks and hints of tobacco, although God knows who would want to drink pencil shavings. But I did give up when he started talking about wet dogs. Got an itchy nose. She looked at Raboul, her dark eyes wide with mock horror. You don't have wines that taste like wet dogs, do you? Raboul shook his head and laughed. I once heard a winemaker describe his wine as comme le petit Jésus en pantalon de velours, like Jesus in his velvet trousers. He shrugged. Winemakers are great enthusiasts. One must forgive them a little for their exaggerations, I think. They're trying to describe something that is often indescribable. The cheese arrived, 3 different cheeses, in fact, with a generous dollop of fig jam, and Raboul returned to his proposals. There is, as I said, a problem, and his name is Patrimonio, Jérôme Patrimonio. He is the chairman of the committee that will choose the winning project, and as chairman, he has, of course, more than just the influence of his personal vote. Raboul rearranged the cheeses on his plate while he tried to collect his thoughts. Patrimonio hates me. He would do anything to stop me from winning. Anything. Elena was the first to ask the obvious question. Forgive me, but what did you do to him? Why does he hate you? Raboul shook his head and sighed. There was a woman. He looked at Elena, as if between sophisticated adults that would be a sufficient enough explanation. And such a woman, too. The distant memory brought a half smile to his face. Oh, a long time ago, it's true. But Patrimonio is Corsican. Again, the significant look. He's proud like all Corsicans, and he has a very long memory like all Corsicans. Let me get this straight, said Sam. You know that this guy who hates your guts is the chairman of the committee, and you still think you have a chance. You must let me finish. Patrimonio doesn't know I'm involved. My name doesn't appear on any of the bid documents, and I was careful not to involve any French companies that could easily be checked. My proposal was officially put forward by Langer and Troost, a very old and discreet Swiss private bank, and Van Buren Partners, a firm of American architects owned by Tommy Van Buren, who is an old close friend of mine. We were at Harvard together. It's the international marketing representative of Van Buren who will make the final presentation to the committee. And there, my dear Sam, is where I hope you will make your appearance. As an architect who knows nothing about architecture, and an American, a foreigner as well, Sam shook his head. I don't know, Francis. I think I may be a bit short on qualifications. Raboul disposed of such trifling concerns with a flick of the hand. At this stage, it's not necessary to have any great knowledge of architecture. That will come later. But at the moment, we're selling an idea, somewhere for people to live, not just for somewhere to visit. Something unique to Marseille that respects the environment and exists in harmony with the sea. Sam held up his hand. Okay, that could work. It's a nice, straightforward pitch, but why me? Why not have someone from Van Buren do it? Raboul leaned back, spreading his arms wide, a smile on his face. I need someone special, a top-class salesman, persuasive, charming, tactful, which is exactly what you were in your previous career as a publisher, remember? He inclined his head towards Sam. You fooled me. You could fool them. Sam finished the wine in his glass and let Raboul pour some more. Even though I'm a foreigner. But Sam, there are foreigners and there are foreigners. Raboul held up one finger. In Marseille, we have loathed Parisians for centuries. It's in our blood. He held up a second finger. The English we tolerate, but since France is only separated from them by a channel, they're a little too close and they tend sometimes to get underfoot. He held up a third finger. The Americans we like, not only for their many virtues, but also because America most conveniently is a long way away. So I think my project starts with a slight advantage. Elena had been watching the exchange closely as though it were a tennis match, her head going back and forth. Let's assume your project wins, she said to Raboul. Isn't it going to be a little difficult for you to stay out of it? Where's the money coming from? I mean, won't there be all kinds of performance guarantees, disclosures of interest, or are these just quaint old American customs? Raboul had been nodding while Elena spoke. A very good point, my dear. Let me tell you how I intend to take care of it. He signalled the waiter and ordered coffee and calvados for the 3 of them. I have deposited sufficient funds with Troost and Langer from an account in Dubai so that nothing is seen to originate from France to cover the first stages of the construction. Once these stages have been carried out and the project is well underway, There will be an unforeseen and totally unexpected cash flow problem. His eyes opened wide. His mouth made an O of shocked surprise. But fortunately, all will be not lost. Help will be at hand in the form of a sympathetic local investor. He will step in, and for the greater good of Marseille, he will take over the financial responsibility of finishing the project. And that will be you, said Elena. That will be me. And at that stage, there will be nothing Patrimonio can do. Not a thing. So far, so good. All we need now is a salesman. Elena turned to Sam. Over to you, big boy. Sam was outnumbered and he knew it. He knew that if he turned down the job, he risked incurring the disappointment and the wrath of Eleanor, deprived of her first ever vacation to the south of France. Based on his past experience of Eleanor with her blood up, this was a most disagreeable prospect. And besides, a presentation such as Rabul had outlined was something he could do standing on his head. The trip might be fun. You win, he said, and raised his glass to Elena, then to Rabul. A toast. Here's to the success of our little venture. A beaming Rabul leapt up and darted around the table. Bravo, he said, bravo, and promptly kissed the startled Sam on both cheeks. So that's a little taster for anybody who wants to read Peter Mayle, The Marseille Caper. I don't know whether you like him as an author and what you've read of him. I think Bowie's read quite a lot of his books. I think I actually preferred Chasing Cézanne. And I think you have to get into it because you have to, that he's sort of outlining all the characters. But then it kind of does take a turn where they go, you know, it's all set in, the rest of the book's all set in Marseille. So that's just something interesting. And I thought that one might be one that you would like. But there was lots of us at the beginning. Clearly, half the people left, so they obviously didn't like it. It wasn't on their list. But anyway, that was one of them. I couldn't find The President's Hat. I really wanted to find The President's Hat because I think that's a great little book. It's a very easy read, but it's a really great story about a man who's down on his luck and he goes into a brasserie and on his own and he has a meal and he picks up a fedora hat, which he thinks is his own fedora hat, but he's actually picked up the wrong hat. And in the brim of the hat is the initials of the President of France. And it's all of the things that happens to him on his adventures in wearing this hat, which brings him success. And, you know, I won't give the story away, but it's quite a good one. Is anybody who's still there? Janie's obviously still there. Heather's here. Oh, there's a few people. I never know on YouTube whether people are there or whether they're not really. It's a bit weird. I'm not used to this yet. It's not my preferred mode of communication, shall we say. But that was a really good book, and I thought you would enjoy that one. For those people who don't know it, it's worth a read. The Marseille Caper was good, and also there's this one which is Restaurant Babylon. Imogen Edward Jones and anonymous. The person she wrote it with who wished to remain anonymous because he was quite high up. There is by the same author. Air Babylon, that's it. That was the one for Leanne that I thought she would enjoy to watch. Air Babylon. Air Babylon. There's Hotel Babylon. Do you remember the series on television in the UK that was called Hotel Babylon? And it was all about a luxury hotel in London. Does anybody remember that? Or am I going back too far? I think it was probably about, what would it be, about 2000-ish, or even in the 90s. It was a brilliant series about this 5-star luxury hotel and all the comings and goings of what went on, and you know, and it was called Hotel Babylon. And they do Fashion Babylon, Beach Babylon, Pop Babylon, Hospital Babylon. I'm not sure I want to hear about that, but it's literally the secrets of. They get sort of insiders who are going to, all of the following is true. Only the names and some circumstances have been changed to protect the guilty. All their anecdotes, stories, character situations, the highs, the lows, the scams, the drugs, the misery, the love, the death, and the insanity are exactly as was told to me by an anonymous. A collection of some of the finest chefs, maitre d's, sommeliers, owners, and insiders working in the restaurant industry today. However, for legal reasons, the stories now take place in a fictitious restaurant with a fictitious owner. Narrated by anonymous, thousands of hours of experience and knowledge have been compressed into just 24 hours. Everything else is just as it should be. The chefs shout, the owners smile, and the rich just carry on eating. It's another 24 hours in one of London's finest dining establishments. Don't remember the hotel series. No, it was really good. It's called Hotel Babylon, and there was some fantastic actors. I must try and find it on YouTube because I think you would probably quite like to watch that, you girls. It's quite easy to watch. It's a sort of a light, easy drama type thing to watch. Yeah, The President's Hat is fun. They did make it into a film, and if I can find that, we'll watch it because I don't think I've actually seen the film, or if I have, it's a long time ago. But it was a really good story, really enjoyable. So anybody who wants to let me know about what books that they've been reading that they like. That was just me going in to just find a couple of things while I was looking for you. So who have we got here? We've got drink, crab cake sound. Yeah, crab cake. Nice. I've actually had 2 meals today, small ones and sensible ones. I've had salad today. I've had a tomato salad and some homemade quiche, a quiche. And I had to have some pasta tonight because I've been in the garden part of the afternoon. It was so hot. I'm not joking. It was so hot. And I knew I had to go down and tie all my tomatoes up. And I didn't start doing it till at least 6 o'clock and it was still burning. So I planted up my petunia tubs and planted those up, and then went down to the garden and did some, John Eve came and helped me to lay out my watering system. Just remembered I've left it on. Go turn it off. Luckily, it's a sort of a drip by drip one. It's not where you don't have it on full power all the time. It's a drip by drip, and it just kind of moistens the soil, and then just you put it on just a quarter turn of the pipe, and then it will just water continuously for a few hours, and then just once a day. And if you do it at night, like this time's perfect because it won't evaporate as quickly as in the heat of the day. And we just set it all going. It goes all the way around the tomatoes, the peppers, all of that. And hopefully it'll just wet the potager without me having to go down every day and stand for, a good 45 minutes, actually, doing that. And when we're busy and we've got guests coming for dinner, the best time to water is around 6 o'clock when it's not too hot. And that's the time I'm getting ready for dinner and I'm rushing about and here and there. So what I thought was I'd set this watering system up. And somebody said to me, oh, you can buy this hose pipe that's got like little holes in it. And what I ended up doing was buying what they call a micro pore hose pipe, and it's like sort of rubber. It's like that stuff you have at playgrounds where you fall on it, children fall on it, and it's sort of slightly squidgy. And it's called microporous because it's like porous fabric. So the water you see little tiny beads of water coming out of it. It doesn't pour out. And so we set all that up today because I'd already done the tomato side of it. And then I realized that I hadn't got enough to go all the way around the rest of the potager. So I had to go and buy another 20 meters. So I've now got 60 meters of this hose pipe. And it literally just it's a bit like an element on a kettle. It goes backwards and forwards and round all of the plants, as many of the plants as possible. And then it just literally moistens all the soil. So it's brilliant. I will have to go down there once every couple of days or 3 days and water things like the strawberries, the courgettes that are, separate from the garden. But it's a brilliant system. And I looked it up on YouTube and I thought, oh, I can do something like that. there's some really good ideas for people who have balconies. If you've got a small balcony or whatever, say you've got a balcony and you just want to grow some food, you can use any type of container, and you just need to make sure you have some sort of a tray system underneath. It doesn't even have to be an expensive plant pot and tray. You can just use an old kitchen tray. You can use all sorts of fun kind of receptacles, and just make sure you've got a hole in the bottom. And when you water, if you're going away for a weekend or on holiday or something and you haven't got anybody to water your plants, a brilliant idea that I saw, an absolutely brilliant idea, was you get empty mineral water bottles, you know, the big litre mineral water bottles, and you can just suspend them above. You can put a bamboo cane, and then you can tie them onto the cane, cut the bottom off, fill them up with water, and just pierce tiny pinprick holes in the lid underneath, and it will just drip, drip, drip. So it will water your plants for you while you're not there. There's brilliant ideas, absolutely brilliant. You can sow seeds in any sort of container. You can easily grow a tomato plant and have your own tomatoes, even if you don't have any big gardening skills. You just need a little bit of compost, a plant, a pot, and some sort of a tray to, you know, catch the water. Brilliant ideas. You can grow potatoes in tubs on the balcony. You can do all sorts of things. So, you know, don't think that for all you people that are watching me in my potager that it's, oh, everybody's disappeared now. That's that really boring. That anybody in my potager thinks that that's really complicated to do it all, because obviously, you know, I've got a huge space, and I've just had to learn exactly the same as everybody else. So showing people what I do just gives them a little bit more confidence, I think. And it's just about confidence. I mean, every year I try a few new things, and some things work and some things don't work, but you know, but the potager is a fantastic way to feed yourself, even in a small space. Fresh tomatoes, what's better than that? And they're so expensive in the shops. They really are so expensive. I don't know who's still here with me. You can't give me any little hearts or thumbs up to show me that you are here. But you could just say hi. Jane, I know Janie's here, obviously. Is Leanne still here? Leanne might have shot off somewhere. Heather, are you still with us? Anyway, whoever's there, I hope you enjoyed a little snippet of Peter Mayle. Not the easiest one to get into, but because it was about Marseille, I thought, well, it would just give you an idea, a flavour, and then if anybody wanted to go and read that book, they could. But I will try and find The President's Hat. And what I thought I might do was just read one chapter or two chapters of each book, just while we're on our little holiday from Facebook. And it will just give you guys an idea of some different books about France, because I've got 2 or 3 that I thought you would like. I'm trying to find the one I've got somewhere. It's called The Paris Architect. That's really fantastic, that book. There's another book that I don't have anymore. I'm sure I don't have it anymore because I've been trying to find it for ages. It's called The Paris Winter, and that's really beautiful. It's very slightly bizarre in places, and it's set in the 1800s, and it's all about a girl who wants to go to the École des Beaux-Arts and study art and to be a painter. It's a brilliant book. I read it years ago. I think I read it just before we came to Chamonix. So, I mean, gosh, that's what? We've been in France now 8 years. 8 years this year. So I should have read that book probably 10 years ago. But it was a lovely, lovely book. Beautiful, beautifully written. Bowie, that would be right up Bowie's street, I think. Jane, you'd love it, definitely. I've got another one called The Paris Apartment, which was one that we put on our little list. So I might read that one. Just a chapter or 2 at the beginning, just for you to get a feel of the book. And then you can kind of decide whether you want to go ahead and, you know, buy it and read it yourself. But a little Facebook holiday is proving to be, it's very weird. I'm sat here and I can't, I don't, like when I'm on, when I'm on Facebook, I kind of feel like I've got all my friends around me. And which is weird because when I'm on here, there's only like a few of us, and it's like I'm quite self-conscious, and I'm not usually self-conscious, really, am I? How weird is that? How strange is that? Anyway, Napo threw up tonight, so I'm not sure whether it was my fault because I gave him a bone, or whether he's eaten something he shouldn't. He's been very, very lethargic and quiet all day long. And it might be the heat because it doesn't, I mean, it's nowhere near as hot as it's going to be. Where is he? Napo. Napo. He's come alive now, you see. He's all lively now. He's running around. Jolie's just put a new security light outside there. Come on, baby. Are you all right? Go and eat some dinner. Oh, doesn't really like the sound of that. He was stood across. I was sat under the blind because it was really hot. You can't do anything after lunch, in the middle of the afternoon. It's just too hot. And so I was just sat reading, and I just heard this. Sorry, Pauline. I can cope with dog sick. I can't cope with humans. And he was just like standing on the brand new patch of newly sowed lawn that was waiting to be mowed, and he was just about to hoik up something, and I was like, darling, come here, sweetie. Don't throw up on my brand new grass. It was like, don't throw up on brand new carpet. Anyway, it was just very uneventful. It was like I gave him a little bit of a pork bone this morning from the suckling pig the other day, and I know I shouldn't give him pork bones, but he really enjoys it. I'm like Mrs. P in All Creatures Great and Small. Give my dog a dodgy bone that's gonna. I hope I haven't done him any harm. I mustn't do it. It's a fly. You all right, sweetie? Are you okay? Yes, he's fine. Let's see if we can see him. Let's see if you can say hello to everyone. Napo, say hello. Cuckoo. I can't turn you around like normal. Anyway, Napo's very cool and he's laying down going, hi. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to lick my privates. Don't mind me. Oh, he's doing it. How did I know that was going to happen? Oh, my God. Right, I'm going to love you and leave you because I'm sure you've had quite enough of me tonight, and no TV to distract you. So I hope you've all had a really good day wherever you. No, Napo, Heather says, Heather Bradshaw. Honestly, Heather Bradshaw, you sound somebody really posh with a name like that. Not that you aren't posh, I'm just saying, it sounds like, one of the women in Housewife 49. Do you remember when we watched that? That was fun. Nella Last, Housewife 49. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed what? What did you really enjoy tonight? Just chatting and listening to me reading from a book. Oh, I'm glad. Well, I hope that was nice. It's better. At least it keeps I'll tell you what I've done in my day, which is usually fairly, well, some days are more eventful than others. But yeah, I'll see if I can have a look through and see what else I can find. I'll get some inspiration. The thing is, we can't watch Wild at Heart because I'd have to sit there like that all night holding my phone. I was trying to figure out whether it was possible to, I think you have to have some kind of software. You know how, well, if Pauline's on with us, when you and I have watched some, do you remember when you were watching Phil with me? Have you ever watched, when we were watching Phil Godlewski, and he was showing that documentary, and he was live on YouTube, and then he was clicking, and you could see the program on the bottom right hand side of the screen. And I was wondering if I could do that, but it's fairly basic, is YouTube. It's pretty basic. It's not really meant for middle-aged women chatting. It's meant for kind of hip teenagers breaking records or whatever, or fashion it. I don't know what YouTube was made for in the very beginning. It was all sort of music based, wasn't it? YouTube. There was YouTube and there was MySpace. I think MySpace might still be going, and that's like music, isn't it? So, what does that say? Have they blocked you on all pages of Facebook? Yeah, well, actually, they have. And even if you try and set up another account from the same computer under another name with another email address, or access somebody else's Facebook. So, say for example, my Auntie Christine, my godmother, she doesn't have internet, but when she came here, I was trying to teach her how to use Facebook. So we set up a Facebook account for her, and with the password and everything. And I was wondering, should I go and try? She doesn't use it; she's never been on it. But I was trying to encourage her to use Facebook, to sign up when she got home, so she could follow me through the code. Before this happened, but she wouldn't need to wait for me to phone her. If she wanted to join us girls or anything, she would be able to come on, and she would really like it, really, really enjoy it, because she's that sort of person who likes to sort of people talk, chat, not chat, but she likes to be involved in things, and she's quite happy to sit and watch and listen, but she would get such a kick out of it. And it was such a shame because I just didn't manage to get her signed up on the internet or whatever. And she lives on a pension, she lives on her own. She hasn't probably been hardly anywhere for the last nearly 2 years, which is a bit of a nightmare. And she's got macular degeneration, so she can't drive now. And it would have been so great for her to have access to the internet, but she doesn't. So she hardly watches TV anymore, because she said it's, apart from the fact that it's all such garbage, she said it's just so not interesting to me. She watches all the programs like we watch, which is why I knew, I was kept encouraging her to get on. So I might just try and log in, because if I've been to people's houses and somebody's in the beginning of Facebook, I remember saying, "Oh, can I just log in my Facebook and see if I've got any messages?" And you would deconnect from one account and log in another account. But when I set up that second account, they just barred the whole bloody lot. And actually, somebody else, and actually, it was for posting. Well, I've got multiple violations, obviously. I love that. That's kind of kudos. But it was for posting a woman making peeling oranges and lemons and making a sort of her own version of hydroxychloroquine, and that's why I got banned. And somebody else, a friend of mine from Germany, said that she was in the middle of doing a live stream the other day, and they just banned her. And so they're at it all the time. So anybody that does anything or post anything that's remotely controversial at all, I mean, honest to God, let's hope that somebody takes this thing over and puts it back to the way it should be, which is freedom of speech. And we've got no freedom of speech anymore. I mean, at the end of the day, nobody has to listen or watch. They can turn it off. If I don't want to watch them, I turn it off if I'm not interested in it. I must see thousands of things like that every day, and I just scroll on by. And I always say, not interested, that's absolutely fine, but scroll on by. And then, of course, the whole point of it is that people can write and say and do what they want, and then they just, in one fell swoop, think that it's not cool. It's not cool, Facebook. It's not cool. So I think that there will be a whole, I envisage that Facebook will quite soon be, gone, and it will be gone and replaced by something far more open and far more, user friendly, in terms of, you can, I'm not in, what's the word? I'm not endorsing, people talking you know, like hate speech or all that sort of thing. That absolutely no, no, no. And I hate people, you know, hate seeing things that are violent. But if it's actually happening, then, you know, part of me thinks, well, that people should know, because, you know, we shouldn't all be sitting in our own little worlds tucked up in cotton wool, should we really? However, I do think censorship is really quite appalling, and it's getting worse wherever you are. So it's all kind of bubbling to the surface, and I don't think Facebook will exist probably in its present format, or certainly won't be run by who it's being run by. And I think it should go back to the way it was designed to be, which was for friends to share opinions and, you know, everything from the basic pictures of your dog to whatever you want to post that might be of interest to somebody else, really. So that's me, Heather. Yeah, I definitely did get a kick up the backside this week, but I'm not the only one. I know loads of people this week who've got banned. But anyway, we don't care, do we? We'll be coming back bigger and better. It's a bit annoying that I can't go live for 30 days on Facebook, but I think what I'll do is I can post after 7 days. Oh, whoopee doo! But what I'll do is I'll do some videos in the garden, or if I go out, I'll do videos, and I'll just not do live ones. I'll just do them and upload them straight away, so it won't be much different. And I'm going to see if I can figure out a way. There's another platform on blockchain, apparently. I don't know what blockchain is, but it's supposed to be, it's a different form of accessing the internet. There's no censorship on it. And it's called D Live, and you can go live on D Live. I've been watching somebody on there, it's really good, and I've been watching it. It's a bit sort of, graphics are very chaotic, but I think it was designed for gaming people. I think it was designed for young kids and gamers and stuff like that. But the actual principle of how it works, D Live, I think you can put the screen, you can inset the screen, so you could have, like, we could have Wild at Heart playing. That would be fun, wouldn't it? We could have Wild at Heart playing on the screen while we're talking, so you could actually see me, and I could, you know, we'd all be watching it on the screen. So I'll have to figure out how to do that and get some advice. But nothing holds JJ down for long, does it, Jane? Not really. I miss all my girlies though. It's really strange, and we will get to do it. We'll do a live. I might even do a Zoom. Sheila can't use YouTube and Sheila can't use Zoom, but some of you can, so we could probably still do a live. But absence makes the heart grow fonder. Is that what they say? Leanne, have you been out in your kayak today? She's probably gone by now. She came on and said hello at the beginning. Yeah. So I'm working on it, girls. I'm working on it. I went on to DuckDuckGo saying, you know, how to get a new Facebook account when you've been banned. Because everybody's asking the same question. Thousands of people every day. It's just so nauseating that they just can do that. They can just turn you off like that. Oh, I know I've got multiple violations, but it was just for a recipe of oranges and lemons, they said. Anyway, I'm going to love you and leave you. It's been fun. It's been weird, but it's been fun. And I will let you know, and we'll catch up hopefully tomorrow. What's tomorrow? I'm doing an update. It's market day tomorrow. Can't go live, but might do a live video. Can't post it, so I'll keep it till next week. Depends what the weather's like. So wherever you all are, have a great one, a great evening, or a great day, or an afternoon, or I don't know who's even here. So we'll catch up again very soon, and the JJ show will be back hopefully tomorrow night around the same time. Bye.